Hello, Internet! I'm Elliot the Purple Hair Doofus, and welcome to Buddy Reads, where I read a small selection of a book and review it for you. Today we are covering the first 5 chapters of The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. I hope you've read up to that point yourself, because I do not want to ruin anything for you. Also, this is a sequel to Name of the Wind, so if you haven't read Name of the Wind, I definitely suggest that you go and you read that. I will link the playlist where I read it before in the description down below. This is a high fantasy. It's not my normal genre. I've already read the first one, and there's only supposed to be 3, so I guess I'm just kind of stuck doing this now. Starts off pretty much where the last one left off. It's just the next day. Everyone's waking up. Again, if you haven't read Name of the Wind, I suggest you do so because I'm about to spoil stuff for you at the end of Name of the Wind. Caboose gets up and he's working around his inn, his bar. And he's cleaning up after the, I guess you'd call it a massacre that happened at the end of the last book, where the spirit jumper, something like that, the demon jumper, the thing that was jumping in and out of people, had killed a few people, and then, well, had been killed himself when someone beheaded the person that it was possessing. So Caboose's cleaning up, Bass comes down, and he's talking to Caboose, and he's looking over the drinks, and he takes a few sips of the drinks. And Caboose says, "Are you drinking, really, right now?" And Bass says, "Well, it's not like there's really anything else we can do today." And Caboose says, "Well, I think you have me there." Then the chronicler comes down, and he is looking things over, and they're discussing the demon hopper. Bass starts making this wood crown to save them from getting infected by the demon hopper thing. The chronicler says, "Why can't we just wear a suit of iron?" And Bass actually repeats himself and says, "It can make you tear out your own tongue. It can make you do things that you don't want to do." And the chronicler's like, "I don't get it." And then Bass continues to talk to him in a scarier and scarier tone, scaring the chronicler and forcing him to jump back and almost fall over a bunch of chairs. This, of course, gets Caboose to laugh. The chronicler runs away to get his stuff to start writing stuff down. Caboose starts getting deliveries. People thought that he would have been closed due to the death, but he said, "Why would I be closed? It's an open environment here. I'm going to be open as long as I possibly can." And so they're like, "Oh, that's great." And they drop off I want to say it's like 2 or 3 barrels of apples. And then it gets kind of boring because the author tends to write out every single step of what Caboose is doing, and it's kind of unnecessary. Then the chronicler comes back with a piece of paper, and he's sitting at the table, and Caboose is tending to the bar when a young gentleman comes up and starts discussing his woes. And Caboose tells him that he had better get ready for a hard winter, because a hard winter is coming. The guy's like, "Thank you for your advice." And Caboose makes like the perfect bartender because the guy just rambles on and on and on, and that's pretty much all Caboose says in like 3 sentences at the end of the conversation. Then another young gentleman comes in, and he starts telling his woes to Caboose as well, and Caboose notices that this boy is planning to join the army. Caboose likes this boy, so he says, "Here, I'll make you a deal. Listen to what I have to say, and your food is free." The boy says, "Okay, I just gotta listen to a bunch of words? Alright." Caboose basically explains to him that he is the legendary Caboose, the legendary king killer. And the boy's like, "Yeah, right, whatever. Maybe that fairy tale might have worked on some other lame ass, but it's not gonna work on me. You should have not reached for the stars with that. I mean, that sword above your bar, it's not even silver. I bet you don't even have a cloak of undiscernible color." And the chronicler has to correct the young man and said, "No, Caboose didn't have that. You're thinking of this guy." And Caboose like, "That." The young man's like, "Well, what did he have?" And chronicler tells him what he has. He's like, "Well, I want to see that then." And Caboose just kind of shakes his head and says, "No, I'm not going to prove it to you any more than I already have. If you're not going to listen, you're not going to listen." The boy is like, "Thanks for the tale, but I have serious matters to get to. I am not going to be talked down to like this." And it's like, "I understand," and the boy walks away. And then Caboose sits down with the chronicler, and he reads past the past notes, and they finally get down to what they were supposed to talk about, which is Caboose's life story. Where they pick up on Caboose's life story, Caboose is back at the university. They are about to have the raffle for the admissions, and he's waiting in line to pick his slot. And while he's waiting in line, Dennis shows up. And she actually steps out of her place and goes back to where Kavote is. One thing that I forgot to mention was while the chronicler was looking over his notes and Kavote was asking, what's going on so far in my story, the chronicler says, well, you were doting after dinner. And Kavote says, I don't dote. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, you do. You do a lot. It's all you do. It really is. It's like the basis of your character. If anything happens to Denna, your world is like dead. Because, yeah, Kavote, you dote after her so much that it's kind of annoying. Back to where they're standing in line, he's doting after her. She's kind of slightly flirting with him, but she really just wants him there for company. They're waiting in line. They get their slots. He gets one like 3 days away. She gets one at the end of the admissions, which is like the perfect slot to be at because that gives you the maximum time to study for the admissions. Kavote says, oh, you could totally trade that for money. Dennis says, I don't really do the trading thing. I just pick whatever I got. And she says, what do you got? And he says, I have something in like a week. And she says, oh, I could totally trade you if you need the time. And Kavote says, oh, I don't need that. I don't need your luck. He totally needs his luck. And she's like, okay. And she walks away with her prime spot. And Kavote goes out into the crowd to bargain. Runs into a friend who has a slot for, I don't know, like 2 days later. And Kavote says, I will totally trade you this for this amount of money. And the guy says, I will trade it for less amount of money. And I will trade it for a little bit more than that. And I will trade it for a little bit less than that. And Kavote says, I will trade it for that amount, plus you have to take this other friend of ours the next time we play corners. And the guy's like, okay, I like that deal. They swap places. Then he goes out to drinks with his friends, and they're all kind of ragging on him. They're like, what do you need a late spot for anyways? It's not like you can really study in the archives. You've been banned. And Kavote's like, well, thanks for bringing that up, jerks. His friends are just such assholes, but entertaining assholes. They have drinks. He goes back to his place where the innkeeper there gives him cold food. He takes the cold food, wraps it up, gets out of his window, and he goes to meet with Ari. Ari is my favorite character of this series so far. I am so glad that there is a short novella about Ari that I really, really want to read because I just love her. Ari is this very, I don't want to say crazy, but she's very odd in the way that she talks, in the way that she interacts with Kavote, and the way that Kavote talks about her is very odd as well. Can't really decide whether or not he wants to be her friend or her something more. He gives her food. She gives him food. She asks when he's going to play for her again. He says, oh, I'll do it in a week. And she says, that's not soon enough. I need you to play for me tomorrow. It would be soon enough for a rock. And she says, I'm not a rock. And he says, you could pretend to be a rock for a week. Come on, Kavote. Throw the girl a bone. Play the lute for her. Because in the next section, Kavote goes out with his lute. And he goes to the... oh, what's it called? It's like their version of America's Got Talent or Insert Your Country Here's Got Talent. Kavote goes there and he plays beautifully most of the time and gets money for it. So he's there with his friends and they've brought along this new friend named Manet. And I have a feeling that Manet is going to be a very fun addition to this group. Because Manet has a way of talking that is not asshole-ish. He has a way of talking about women that is not asshole-ish. He has a way of talking about his friends that is not asshole-ish. And he has a certain innocence about him because he's never been to a place like this. So they have to explain to him what all of this is about. And Kavote is like, whatever you do, don't talk during the music. Manet's like, okay, I won't talk during the music. So Kavote and his friends are sitting there talking before the music starts, and his friends are asking him, so what are you going to play? What are you going to play for us? You know what you should really play? It's that terrible, terrible song that you wrote about Ambrose. You should play that song. But it's like, I am done with Ambrose. We are closing the book on that chapter. No more. And his friends are like, come on, it'd be so hilarious. Just play that song. He's like, no, I don't want to play that song. And his friends are just kind of like goading him on. They're like, Ambrose. And he's like, oh, make you a deal. Look around. If I run into Thurp, who is the guy who pays him for playing this music, if I run into him, I will play that song. Oh, yeah. And so he starts walking around on the pretense that he's looking for the guy who's paying him, but who he's really looking for is, you guessed it, Denna. Because Kavote dotes after Denna so frickin' hard. And then he runs into Dinah. And it's awkward. It's very, very awkward because Dinah is there with a gentleman caller. Well, I don't really know if it's a gentleman caller, but the way that the book wrote it kind of presents it that way. Dinah is there with a guy who is supposedly teaching her how to play the lyre? Again, details are a bit lost on me because this book floods you with so many details. This guy's teaching her to play an instrument, and when Cabot's talking with him, on the outside he appears to be a gentleman, but you can just tell that they are having a penis measuring contest with each other. He says, I am rich. Cabot says, I play stuff well. He says, oh, I bet you play a lousy instrument. Cabot says, oh, I play an actual great instrument. And the guy's like, well, I play a great instrument too. And it's just really annoying. Cabot eventually says, thank you for your patronage, or thank you for the conversation, but I must be back to my friends. You're welcome to join us if you want. And the guy is like, oh, we have one up in the higher rich people place. So, yeah, go stuff it. Why? So Dinah and the rich guy leave while Dinah kind of looks over her shoulder and rolls her eyes at the rich guy's whole pandering thing. Then Dinah comes back and she is pretending like she lost an earring. And she says, oh dear Quote, please help me find my earring. And he gets down on all fours and both of them feign looking for an earring that is not there. And they have the conversation. Where did you find that guy? He looks pretty handsome. His voice is like honey. And it's just like, get to the dragon killing, please. And Dinah's like, I found him doing this because he's actually teaching me to play an instrument. And Cabot's like, yeah, how are his hands? He's like, no, he is a complete gentleman. He does not do that sort of stuff. Oh. Cabot actually pisses Dinah off. And she feigns finding the earring. She says, oh, I have found my earring! In a, lavish display. And she says, oh, Cabot, will you please help me? He puts the earring on her, and she's like, thank you, sir, and walks away. Cabot comes back down to his friends and says, I can't find the guy that pays me money to play music. I'll just have to play what I originally thought I was going to play. And he goes up to the stage, and the guy at the stage is like, what are you going to play for us today? Because he's like the bouncer. He's like, you're not going to play unless you play something good. Cabot says, I'm going to play a surprise. And the guy says, is this going to be a surprise that causes a bunch of riots and fights and people to tear up my bar? And Cabot says, no, it's going to be a happy surprise. And the guy says, well, that's good because I like surprises. I was really hoping it was going to be a surprise that caused a brawl and hit people to fight and destroy his bar. Because so far this is really boring. And that's pretty much where the section ends for right now. I think one of the most irritating things about this book so far is the amount of detail the author writes into it. I went to film school, and one of the things that they taught you when editing a scene is you have this temptation to film every tiny little step, and when you do that, it becomes boring and dull. The problem with this book is he is showing us every tiny little minute detail, and it's dragging on forever. And I'm only on page 50 and I'm just like, just get to the story. I should not feel that way on page 50. I should be like, okay, this is good exposition. But when there's actually a part in here when he is trying to get parts for a lamp, and he says, and then I asked this other character for parts for the lamp. And then there's actually the quote, and it lists off the 20 different parts for the lamp. It's like saying, I'm going to say goodbye to you. Goodbye? No! It was just so very no. If you like what I'm doing, go ahead and click the subscribe button. If you like this video specifically, go ahead and click the like button. And go ahead and leave a comment letting me know the last time that you read a book and you found the descriptions to be so thorough that they almost got boring. Because that's what I'm feeling right now. I've been Aria the Purple-Haired Doofus. This has been Buddy Reads, reminding you to watch your pajamas, and I will see you all in the next section of The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. Toodles!